The Hollywood Adventure of Gomer Pyle. The sun was shining brightly over the bustling streets of Hollywood, a place where dreams were manufactured and reality often took a backseat to the glitter of tinsel. Private Gomer Pyle stood on the sidewalk, his eyes wide with a sense of wonder that only a soul as pure as his could possess. He turned to his superior officer, his face beaming with a radiant smile. Gomer asked if it was not brilliant that they were there in Hollywood making a picture. He was filled with a sense of awe, wondering if the sergeant was not just too thrilled about their current situation. Sergeant Carter, however, did not share Gomer's wide-eyed enthusiasm. To him, Hollywood was just another assignment, a place to get a job done and move on. He leaned back, looking at the palm trees and the neon signs with a skeptical eye. He told Gomer that as far as he was concerned, it was just a job. They were sent there to do a job, and that was the end of it. But Gomer could not let it go. He asked again if the sergeant was not thrilled just being there in the heart of the movie industry. Sergeant Carter sighed, using a word that he felt perfectly described the surroundings. He called it tinsel. He explained to Gomer that it was all tinsel, that it was not real, and that it was all phony. He compared it to a Barnum and Bailey world, insisting that everything they saw was merely tinsel. Gomer considered this for a moment, but his optimism remained unshaken. He suggested that even if it was tinsel, perhaps they could go to the commissary together to get some autographs. The sergeant was firm in his refusal, stating that he was not interested in that sort of thing. Suddenly, Gomer pointed excitedly toward a figure in the distance, shouting that he saw Omar Sharif. Sergeant Carter immediately reacted, asking where the star was, only to realize a moment later that Gomer was mistaken. He called Gomer a dummy and explained that Omar Sharif was actually doing location shooting in Warsaw, playing the star in the Paderewski story. While Gomer and the sergeant navigated the strange world of the movie studio, a different kind of drama was unfolding nearby. A woman named Paula Prevost sat with her associate, looking troubled. The associate expressed how much of a shame it was, as they had a great part all sewed up for her. He mentioned that he could have doubled her salary overnight. He asked if she had explained the situation to the immigration office. Paula replied that the law was the law. Her visa was set to expire the following Wednesday, and she had to be out of the country by then. Her associate pointed out that there was only one way she could stay, which was to marry an American. Paula frustratedly asked what he thought she had been trying to do. Her associate advised her that she could not be so choosy and would have to take anybody that would have her. He described it as a temporary arrangement, a marriage of convenience. The difficulty, Paula noted, was finding a person who would let himself be used for such an arrangement. At that very moment, Gomer Pyle approached their table. He apologized for interrupting but asked if the lady was indeed Paula Prevost. When she confirmed her identity, Gomer was overjoyed. He asked if it would be too much trouble to get her autograph and requested that she make it out to Gomer Pyle. He explained that he was there with the Marine movie they were making. Gomer began to reminisce about a picture where she played a gypsy girl. He spoke about the ending where the character Rosanna gave her up to marry a rich girl. Gomer told her that he always felt anyone would prefer her. Paula was touched, asking if he really felt that way. Gomer confirmed it, explaining that even though he understood the character represented evil in the film, he believed that in any other situation, she would be the one any man would prefer. Paula thanked him sincerely, and Gomer left, promising to treasure the autograph. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, Sergeant Carter was in room 823, making a phone call to the front desk. He was inquiring about the Hollywood premiere happening that night. He clarified that he did not expect to get a ticket to the event itself, but was interested in finding a bleacher seat to watch the stars arrive. He felt it was something he ought to look in on. Finding no luck with the front desk, he asked for a phone number to another source. Gomer entered the room just as the sergeant was dialing 46,346,999. Gomer asked if the sergeant was going out to say goodbye, but the sergeant ignored him, focused on getting information from the USO. Gomer tried to mention a bus tour he had seen advertised in the lobby, but Sergeant Carter dismissed the idea of riding with 100 other tourists. He claimed to have his own private contacts. As the sergeant spoke to the USO, Gomer's own phone began to ring. It was Paula Prevost. She called him darling and reminded him of their meeting at lunch. She then asked if he would like to attend a Hollywood premiere with her that evening. Gomer was stunned, asking why she would invite him. She replied that she simply liked Marines. Gomer asked her to hold on for a minute, feeling overwhelmed. Sergeant Carter was still on the other line, trying to find a good place near the curb to stand for the premiere. Gomer tried to tell the sergeant about his invitation, but the sergeant repeatedly told him to hold it or to get out of the room. The sergeant was busy learning that he would have to be at the premiere by 5 o'clock even though it did not start until 8 because it would be so crowded. Finally, Gomer returned to his call with Paula. They agreed to meet in front of the hotel at 8 o'clock. Paula ended the call with a cheerful ciao. Gomer tried to tell the sergeant that Paula Prevost was picking them up at 8, but the sergeant was too caught up in his own plans to truly listen. The night of the premiere was a whirlwind of lights and excitement. Gomer found himself sitting at a table with Paula and her manager, Mr. Krasner. Gomer thanked them for the spectacular evening, comparing himself to Cinderella. Mr. Krasner mentioned that it was all Paula's idea because she liked Gomer the minute he walked up to her table for an autograph. Paula stood up to make a phone call, leaving the two men for a moment. When she returned, she sat next to Gomer and told him that something happened to her when he walked over to her table at the commissary. She said that as they sat together in the theater, it seemed to be happening again. She described the feeling as love. Gomer was shocked, pointing out that she did not even know him. Paula asked how well one knows someone in a dream. She mentioned a small gesture from the movie, where he gave her the top of the popcorn where all the butter was. She told him that life and love were made of many little things. She confessed that she could be very happy with a man like him and even mentioned the word marriage. Gomer was flattered but hesitant, noting that they came from two different worlds and that he already had a girlfriend back home. Just then, Sergeant Carter appeared in the establishment. He had not been able to get into the event and was planning to sit at the bar and have a beer. Gomer spotted him and asked Paula if he could invite the sergeant over. When Sergeant Carter arrived at the table, he was starstruck. Gomer introduced him to Miss Paula Prevost and Mr. Krasner. The sergeant declared himself a big fan, saying there was nobody he would rather have met in all of Hollywood. However, the atmosphere shifted quickly. Paula decided it was getting late and she should return to the hotel. She suggested that the sergeant should stay, and the group parted ways for the night. The next morning, Sergeant Carter woke Gomer up in a state of disbelief. He wanted to make sure he was not dreaming. He told Gomer that he and Paula Prevost were engaged. Gomer was confused, reminding the sergeant that they had only just met. The sergeant admitted it was crazy, but argued that people in Hollywood did things differently. He believed Paula saw something strong and powerful in him, like a tough father figure. He announced that they were going to fly to Las Vegas on Sunday morning to get married. Later, Gomer was talking to his friend Duke about the situation. Duke was skeptical, suggesting that Paula might just need a husband for a temporary arrangement, perhaps to resolve a visa issue or income tax problem. Gomer did not want to believe that someone could do such a thing. He tried to warn the sergeant, but the sergeant was too blinded by the glamour of the situation. Gomer decided to speak to Paula directly. He met her at the commissary and asked if she was sincere about marrying Sergeant Carter. He told her that she was getting a wonderful man and that this would be a real marriage with a family and kids. He emphasized that the sergeant was a man who stayed for keeps, following the marriage vows of until death do us part. He told her that the sergeant would follow her to the ends of the earth and never let her out of his sight. This conversation seemed to deeply affect Paula. She realized that Gomer and the sergeant took the idea of marriage much more seriously than she had anticipated. She thanked Gomer for the talk and hurried away. The following evening, Gomer brought the mail to Sergeant Carter's room. There was a package from Bunny, the sergeant's girlfriend from back home. It contained a salami. The sergeant was feeling reflective. He had been trying to reach Paula all afternoon but had only been able to leave messages. He realized it was his last night as a bachelor. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Mr. Krasner. He informed the sergeant that Paula had eloped to Las Vegas to marry her interior decorator instead. Sergeant Carter was stunned but took the news with surprising calm. He told Gomer that he did not get it, but perhaps it was for the best. Gomer agreed, suggesting that it showed she was the marry in haste kind of person and not right for the sergeant. The sergeant retreated to his initial philosophy, stating that the town was indeed tinsel. He told Gomer that he had resilience and that he was not about to fall apart. He even offered Gomer a piece of the salami that Bunny had sent. As they sat there eating the salami, the sergeant reflected on how women were like a bus schedule. He noted that you could not judge a book by its cover and praised Bunny for her ability to pick out a good salami that was not too hard and not too soft. The phone rang again. It was a call from Bunny. The sergeant took the call, thanking her for the salami and telling her that everything was fine in Hollywood. They had seen a couple of movie stars, but for Sergeant Carter and Gomer Pyle, the real world was much more appealing than the world of tinsel.